All right, boys and girls, so I am back, and turns out we did get pretty much the best thing that's going to happen, which is we will have the match tonight. It's going to happen. I did just get out of the coin toss lobby with both team members, with both teams, and we're going to probably, actually, the lobby link is already here. I'm joining it. So the match is happening. There is an important change that is going to happen, which is that CCS is indeed playing with a sub. I'm not sure if them playing with a sub actually has anything to do with the real-life emergency that actually happened, but nevertheless, we'll talk about it, which is for tonight. Zephy from CCS is not in, and instead Unicycle Ye is going to be playing in this place. And this actually opens up a lot of possibilities for CCS, because I'm actually a former member of CCS, so I know Zephy's hero pool very intimately, and his hero pool is exactly Sonya and Hager. Literally this entire season, every single game except for one, according to Hero's profile, Zephy played either Sonya or Hager. The only game when Zephy did not play Sonya or Hager was when a team had already taken away both of them, actually drafted both of them. Didn't even ban them, drafted both of them. So Zephy literally couldn't play Sonya or Hager. But Zephy's not here tonight. Uni is in his place, and Uni, I actually don't know Uni's hero pool at all, but I have a feeling that he's probably got a little bit more than Zephy. Zephy just really, he really has his comfort picks that he likes to go to. Oh my god, the chat is blowing up, and we're seeing more use out of my new emotes than ever before. So I want to take a quick, this game is going to start real soon. I don't even know if I have, you know what, we're going to show the map screen. I want to take a look at my talking points, but I highly, highly doubt we're going to have time for that. Instead, we'll just take a look at the map screen so you know how that went. So here are our bans. U.S. Army Esports did win the coin toss, went for map pick, I believe. Could also be wrong about that. I'm not good at paying attention to that. But whatever reason, U.S. Army Esports, they did pick, or they banned out Cursed Hollow and Sky Temple. Can't Counterpick Stupid banned Braxis Holdout and Alterac Pass, which left Battlefield of Eternity up. Great map. That is one of my two favorite maps in the game, so I'm really glad that we are going to see it here. And love to see that we'll have Battlefield of Eternity at all. We will have Battlefield of Eternity, just like period. It's one of my favorite maps. Always love to see it played. And I think the game is going to start very, very soon. Would love to talk more about this matchup for tonight, because there is actually like a lot to talk about between, you know, kind of the season that these teams have had, the history that they have between each other, and what the playoff implications are. We may be in week 10, but there are actually playoff implications for this match. You know what? I can basically say what it is. I'm pretty sure the game is going to start like really, really soon, but the playoff implications are that if CCS wins this match, doesn't matter whether it's a domination or not, if they win this match, they overtake Animaniacs in the standings, and they will be the first seed of Season 17 of Div C West. U.S. Army Esports cannot move up in the standings no matter what. They are locked out of going any higher than third place. However, if they do not win this match, they actually can fall down in the standings to either fourth place or even fifth place. So there's still some motivation for them to win. And that's it. Our draft is going to happen. It's actually happening. Here's game number one, or really draft number one, for U.S. Army Esports between U.S. Army Esports and Can't Counterpick Stupid. Now, as a former member of Can't Counterpick Stupid, I actually have like pretty intimate knowledge of their drafting preferences. As I've said, Zephy's hero preference being exactly Sonya and Hager, and basically nothing else. You know, if you force him to play something else, like he will play a hero. He won't just like Alt F4, but he has like very, very clear preferences. Wits End on CCS, also someone who has very, very clear hero preferences. Specifically, he likes to play Tyrande and he likes to play Rhaegar. He's played both of those heroes 9 times each this season. He has played a handful of other heroes though. Just a couple here and there. I think some Anduin, I think some Lucio, and I think 1 or 2 other healers, but it's very, very clear that Wit's preference is for Tyrande and Rhaegar. So, and Rhaegar, of course, you know, is not nerfed yet, so at the moment he's still kind of just one of the best healers in the game. Tyrande, a much more situational healer or hero, and actually both, but Tyrande also particularly good on this map, so it actually makes a lot of sense to pick Tyrande on this map. Also, interestingly, for whatever reason, it seems like Wits, despite their clear hero preferences, Wits and Zephy very rarely have those heroes banned out against them, for whatever reason. All right, so our ban's going to come out, both Vala and Greymane taken off the board. Greymane is a preferred hero by Fracture, but this season he's been playing mostly off lane. I think, I haven't watched every single match, but I know his role this season is off lane, and I'm not sure how much. I think there has been like at least one series when he has had to flex. Talking about hero preferences, Garrosh is definitely a preferred hero for Valcomer. Diablo, on the other hand, is not. I'm actually going to say I feel the Diablo band is kind of a wasted band. Sure, it's a sick hero. If you've ever heard me cast before, you know that I very much believe in Diablo. What I often say is that Diablo is the kind of hero that you play when you want to win the division. That being said, I do feel it's one of the tougher tanks to play, and I do know from personal experience that it is not one of Valk's preferred hero. I have seen him play it, but only in Storm League. And Johanna is also Valk's most played tank this entire season. So I know I'm talking a lot about CCS, but I kind of just have a lot more inside info because I was literally inside CCS. I was literally on the team 2 seasons ago, as well as I was on it for two seasons, 14 and 15. Anduin picked up by Fracture of all people. That's an interesting one. Wonder if we're going to see just some role swaps. Definitely Fracture to healer is not the role swap that I expected. But it's also possible that I don't know what I'm talking about because I don't, recall every single match that they played this season. Hanzo, of course, just a really strong hero on this map. Great hero overall. I'm a big believer in the Hanzo. And Li Ming gonna picked up by As. And there is the Tyrande. Kind of like I said. That does actually make sense that they could ban Diablo against Uni. I will say that, on the one hand, I think there is exactly a 0% chance that Valk flexes off of tank, but I also think you could actually reasonably say that they could literally play Diablo Johanna, and just because it's Battlefield of Eternity, that would actually just work. And Valk wouldn't even have to go to wouldn't even have to go to the offlane as Johanna, just because I think Diablo can just hold soak top if he really needs to. Anyway, our final few bans going to come in. It's going to be the Anub'arak as well as the Blaze. So tank's pretty choked out for the side of U.S. Army Esports. Not a lot of options left. Muradin is up. That's definitely the best option that's remaining. And there it is. I think once you go past the Muradin, you're going down the rabbit hole of like ETC. You're even getting down to things like Mal'Ganis and Tyrael. So there are something like 13 tanks or so in this game. And that also is kind of like weird with, like what tanks can we say, what heroes can we say work as tanks even if they technically aren't tanks, like kind of Imperious. That's not really a thing anymore. It was a long time ago, but not anymore. All right, final 2 picks for CCS going to be picked up. The Artanis from Unicycle. I kind of saw the Artanis coming. I know. I don't even know if Hoku's here. That's probably the worst part of the Artanis timeline. I don't think Hoku's in the chat when she needs to be. And yeah, I'm taking a look, and I'm pretty sure Hoku's not in the chat. So Artanis, not a hero that I'm a fan of. I'm definitely have a low opinion of Artanis as a hero, but of course it is frequently picked on this map, specifically because Artanis does contribute so much to the Immortal race. It's just so much damage from the Bruiser position that you're very likely winning the Immortal race if you are picking Artanis. But your team fight's also not great because you have an Artanis. All right, that's going to be our draft. Varian as the final pick. Does make me wonder if we're going to see like a Colossus or Twin Blades even. Both actually quite good at Immortal DPS, but, probably just Taunt. We'll see. We'll find out. And that's our draft for game number 1. Accidentally disabled the sound for a second. Would have been real unfortunate, but luckily I was able to re-enable it. Anyway, we've got game number 1 here between CCS and US Army Esports. We're going to have CCS starting off on the left side of the map. On the blue team, Dr. Evil is going to be playing as Falstad, Wits End on the Tyrande, Valkymer as Johanna, Osprey, or rarely it's Osprey as the Li Ming. I rarely actually have the occasion to say, I usually just say Os. And it's going to be Unicycle Ye playing as the Artanis. Their opponents, US Army Esports, rocking that last pick variant. Really interesting to see what that's going to be. We're going to have Sanger on the Hanzo. Ace Boogie's going to be on the variant in the 4-man, no less. Let's go through the rest of the introductions. It is going to be Fracture on the Anduin, so that is a role swap that I did not see coming. Surefire will be on the Sylvanas, and finally, it's Zidrock in the offlane on the Muradin. I don't hate it, and I think actually he probably does okay into the Artanis with the attack speed slow. But I kind of don't like that we have Ace Boogie in the bot lane right now. I think, yeah, Jesus Christ, he's nearly dying. Os getting really playing with fire there, going in just to hit a couple more shots when he had like 2 health. But yeah, I think, you know, even if the plan is for Ace Boogie to ultimately be the tank for the team, probably a taunt variant, I think at least from levels 1 to 3, you should just have Muradin in the bot lane, because I think basically the 4-man suffers more from not having a tank than from like a variant just being alone top and just getting what little soak he can get. So, like, I don't think US Army Esports has any chance whatsoever to contest this. I think they really just have to give it. They are getting Valk pretty low, so I could be totally wrong, but I still think taking this fight on the camp with a level 2 variant is kind of insane. They're looking for the flank on Wits, but Ace Boogie is just getting so low. He just barely has any health right now with this level 1 variant, and ultimately the camp does go over more or less for free. US Army Esports kind of just looked at him a bit, looked at them a little menacingly. Anyway, potential gank here, but it is a Muradin, unless he has used his jump. Instead, the flight is committed as a means of just acquiring this top camp. And Zidrock, again, he just really can't commit this. So CCS, the game has barely even started, but CCS kind of breaking US Army Esports ankles. And along with that, I'm also just going to straight up miss a kill. So CCS looking strong out of the gate. So we have like probably less than a minute before we see the level 4 locked in for Varian. I kind of want to talk about the relatively rare world that we see either Colossus or Twin Blades. Both of those are very good at Immortal DPS. I actually labbed it a bit, and their actual DPS is kind of even, but what tips it in favor of Colossus is the Colossus smash itself with the armor reduction, making the Immortal take more damage. Anyway, Ace Boogie really holding us in suspense here, but he won't be able to hold us in suspense much longer, given the fact that, you know, soon the Immortal is going to start, and either he's going to need to fight or do damage to the Immortal, and he really wants his spec for either one of those. He hasn't picked. It's level 5. Pick something. Anyway, attempted swap, or I didn't even see if there was a swap. There it is, finally, and it is in fact just the taunt variant, which I think is ultimately the responsible choice. Anyway, Surefire and Sang are going to start putting some damage on that Immortal. It is CCS with the lead, though, I think kind of just by virtue of the better positioning. Taunt goes out. I think it was on to Os, but he is able to get out of there before enough damage does go on to him, as there wasn't quite a lot of damage there with at least with Sylvanas not being there. CCS just go on their Immortal, and I think they get this. Valkymer is just able to zone out both Zidrock and Ace Boogie. Kind of just with Johanna. I think you did get a proc from the level 4 subdue. Ace Boogie looking kind of low here, and Zidrock also gets swapped in, but of all the targets to get swapped in, Muradin definitely the most forgiving. I wonder if Ace Boogie makes it out alive here. USC Sanger himself also looking a little bit lean on hit points. Oh, and some more Li Ming shots go in, but they connect up with Fracture, who still has plenty of his hit points left.
To me, mortals, I march for
All right, so there's going to be a half shield immortal pushing down the lane. A lot of this front wall has already been taken, so we will for sure see the front wall taken, and I imagine some decent progress on the top fort. Don't know if we're going to see the whole thing taken down, but it's chunking away. It's chunking away there. Valkyrie's in there pretty far, not with much health, but he did still have iron skin and is able to get out. Pretty nearly this whole fort is going down. Dr. Evil trying to throw in yet another hammer, and just barely this fort is still standing. Level 7's coming in for both teams, and things are looking kind of as expected. Definitely one of the important talents to call out here that's going to be very influential and probably already has been is this True Shot aura for Tyrande. So it increases Tyrande's basic attack damage by 30%, but more importantly, the implications for the immortal damage is that you activate it and every hero around you gets a 40% increased attack damage. That fort also going to be taken out. And that is huge when you're adding that to the damage of heroes like Artanis and also an AA Falstad. So most likely, even with the Hanzo being on the side of US Army Esports, I think the Immortal race is probably in favor of CCS, and probably, I want to say, somewhat significantly. Anyway, US Army Esports will find this bot camp this time. The members of CCS are just not here, so they will get that completely for free. Meanwhile, we do have a lot of other... We do also have even Li Ming speccing into Immortal DPS, so actually going with Seeker Li Ming, which is the best Immortal DPS that you will get from Li Ming on this map. So Valkymer's going to look for a Condemn, only finds Zidrock, but Sanger's pretty low in the back, does get the heal from Fracture. Dr. Ever himself getting pretty low, also gets taunted by Ace Boogie, but ultimately will get out of there alive, so... Both teams with members getting fairly low. Sanger just standing there and eats an orb. Got to be real careful there. Zidrock gets stunned again. Feels like just kind of some wet noodle fights, and part of that I think also has to do with the fact that US Army Esports only has one of their DPS heroes here. It's actually Sylvanas up in the top lane. You know, I guess in part that is kind of the disadvantage of having Muradin as your side laner or off laner. He is not very good at dealing with basically a wave. All right, US Army Esports set up, trying to do damage, but the members of CCS already there with that amateur opponent Artanis, and they do have the better end of it. Once again, CCS will pull ahead in the Immortal race. They're also ahead in the race to 10. There's not a whole lot that... I think there's really not a whole lot that US Army Esports has to do here. They're trying to go for the fight before 10, but it's now CCS does have 10, and US Army Esports needs to be super careful. Surefire kind of caught, and that is going to be the Anduin pulled out. Now, the Immortals kind of are on natural sides. Os just going to poke and then proc that awesome Seeker sound. I love the sound of... the Seeker Li Ming. Hardly ever play it myself, but I just love the sound of it proccing. Os, of course, just able to poke this from long range. We don't even have, like, Ace Boogie or Zidrock here to kind of block Os. Fracture now in quite a bit of trouble. A Gust is also used. I don't think anyone dies here. Instead, it's just going to be a camp picked up by US Army Esports, kind of their consolation prize. But they do give up most of that Immortal. And it is going to be something like a 60% Immortal pushing down their lane. 60% shield Immortal, that is. All right, I kind of have a feeling here that US Army Esports going to have to give up this fort as well. I mean, maybe they don't explicitly give it up in the sense that they don't just walk back and concede it entirely. But I don't think they will be able to hold it this time. Taunt goes out to Li Ming, but the follow-up damage isn't there soon enough. Dragon Arrow goes out, but definitely doesn't connect on the backline. Wit's End is pretty low. I think US Army Esports, can they find their kill? Sanger goes in, and he does find it. For a second there, I thought Wits was going to go out, but that is going to be the first kill for US Army Esports. And we actually only have 1-to-1 in kills, but pretty clear advantage in terms of structures for CCS at the moment. Meanwhile, our heroics coming out. We do have a mind control out of Sylvanas. Now, I do play Sylvanas quite a bit myself, and I do think between the two that mind control is the more situational of the two heroics, but I do think it combos particularly well with Varian. He just has that clear engage, then you can extend the crowd control for a couple more seconds by basically by basically following up with the mind control. Big issue with the mind control is that at level 16, if Wit's End does go for cleanse, he's actually able to cleanse both the initial taunt from Varian and any follow-up mind controls from Sylvanas if he has both heals available. So that is where the mind control is a little bit weak. We'll see if Wits does pick that talent, and also just, you know, will he have the heal when he actually needs it for that cleanse if he does go for the talent. CCS meanwhile, still once again, the theme of this is just running circles or breaking the ankles of US Army Esports. They just walked up to this. They just walked up to this with 3, mostly unpunished, and Zidrock is practically powerless to do anything about it. He's taking huge amounts of damage. I think it's not worth it for him to die. It's also really not worth it for him to use Avatar there. I think you just really needed to jump out. Oh my god, it's super not worth it for him to both die and use Avatar. So that does hurt quite a bit. I don't think these 3 do push on the core, but can't counterpick stupid. Really just at the moment absolutely playing like the better team, unless maybe I spoke too soon. Os eventually is going to try to jump over the wall, but Sanger is waiting for him. Sanger himself though, kind of by himself, and won't actually be able to follow up on that kill. It is pretty insane that Os gets out of this alive. It feels really illegal to me. Anyway, Uni gets a little bit of damage on the Immortal, but it is on the side of US Army Esports. US Army Esports, though, at this point, it's really, really tough for them. Mind Control goes out, does not find Purchase, and that's already a kill onto Surefire. Gonna be followed up. The Owl from Tyrande does catch Fracture, and that is gonna be another member of US Army Esports going down. Sanger pretty low, trying to contribute whatever he can, but we're getting to the point where I'm kind of expecting at this point that this game might not go on much longer. We might have a fully shielded Immortal pushing down the lane, and at the very least, it takes down the final keep for US Army Esports. And I think there's a reasonable possibility that it could result in game. I think even one kill from CCS against US Army Esports could result in the kill, or could result in the game. Uh-oh, this is something that could allow them back in, though. Ults are forced out kind of a little unnecessarily, and they are just fighting ahead of the Immortal, which is probably actually the right thing to do. They'll find the taunt onto Artanis, and they're going to get the kill. Are they? Oh my god, they don't! He was down to double digits, and then Tyrande with the heal. But it does mean that Artanis is not going to push at the moment. And you know what? If I'm completely honest, I kind of don't like the decision for him to not push. I think Wit's End can get a few autos, give a heal to both Valk and Artanis. I don't think Artanis needs to be here. It is a little unfortunate. I think with Artanis, I think their push for game is actually pretty strong. But, you know, of course, hard to make those optimal decisions in the moment when things are crazy, and you got to make decisions fast. Meanwhile, Ace Boogie looking pretty low. Gonna have to cycle out, let Zidrock tank for a bit. It would be nice if they can hold this keep. I don't think it's gonna happen. It's looking really, really remote. The Immortal itself doesn't finish it. The Seeker Li Ming and the False Dead don't finish it either. I feel like eventually, okay. I thought it wasn't gonna go down there. Must have been this catapult finishing it off. Dragon Arrow goes in. They're going to look for Valkymer, but are they able to get him? Uni is in there. Light Bomb, sadly, does not get any value whatsoever, and Os will find the kill onto Varian. That is going to trigger some Li Ming resets, and that is for sure game number 1 going in favor of Can't Counterpick Stupid. With that, basically 5-man team wipe. Super, super dominant showing from CCS in game number 1. Didn't quite expect it to go this way. Certainly was hoping for a closer game, and hopefully US Army Esports will be able to pull things together in game number 2. Otherwise, this is going to be a quick series for Can't Counterpick Stupid. All right, so we're going to take a look at some things here. I mean, obviously, damage numbers favoring CCS, just with how much they outkilled them and how fast a lot of those fights went. The more sustained damage team from US Army Esports often just not really getting the opportunity to do the damage that they needed to do to keep up in these team fights. And I'm going to take a look at our talent builds right here with, a lot of things. I mean, we don't even really see full talent builds. Only up to level 13 for US Army Esports. The Varian Muradin is definitely one of the things that I do have to question in hindsight. Did leave Muradin Zidrock in a very awkward position when he had to defend against mercenary camps up in the top lane. And I'm thinking it feels like the Varian was picked specifically for the shield breaker for the Artanis, but the game barely lasted long enough for that really to have an impact. And I kind of hope that wasn't the reasoning behind it. So, there it is. The first time I get like a spammer bot on my stream. I've never seen that before. Sadly, I don't know if I have anyone currently modded to take care of that. And I'm not even really sure how to deal with it myself. Do I just... I don't know. It's a shame. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. But that is game number 1. Wow. That was much more dominant from CCS than I expected. Hopefully game number 2 goes a little bit differently. But for now, I'm going to send you to a short break, and we'll be back soon. All right, boys and girls, we're going to get back in here real quick because I do want to talk a little bit about, some of my notes and thoughts for this match. And we're actually already in a lobby, so I got to kind of get this out of the way because we're going to be probably in a draft again sometime real soon. So, I want to take a look at kind of the season that both CCS and US Army Esports have been having here. CCS right now, they are sitting at a 10-1 series record and 20-5 in maps. As far as I know, this is the best season that CCS has ever had. So, looking real strong for them. And again, it's been mostly all season has been a 5-man roster. This is the first time all season that they've had to use a sub, but, it's not slowing them down whatsoever. But it just does feel like, that consistency for them, consistency of the roster has kind of led to consistency of performance. 10-1 series record. Their only loss has been against Animaniacs. US Army Esports, they're certainly looking very strong. As at this moment, CCS are the 2nd seed and US Army Esports are the 3rd seed. However, there are some seeding implications to this matchup. US Army Esports right now 7-3 in series, so they definitely haven't had as consistent of a season as CCS. But 7-3, 17-10 in maps is not anything to feel bad about at all. They're having a great season, and there are things for both teams to play for. For CCS, if they win this series, they overtake Animaniacs in the standings and they will be the number 1 seed. It doesn't matter whether they win with a domination or not. Doesn't matter whether they win with a domination or not. CCS will take 1st seed if they win this series. Now, US Army Esports, on the other hand, if they lose this series, they could fall in the standings to either 4th or 5th place. It does depend on the performance of the teams that are currently in 4th and 5th place, which are Seb and Spooky Ghost. Seb has only, I believe Seb only has 1 match to play. I think Spooky Ghost actually has 3 matches left to play, or maybe 2. Jeez. Yeah. I'm actually not even, I'd have to check that back again. Damn it. I really thought I had it all, but I might have forgotten to check a detail. There might actually be a possibility that Spooky Ghost can overtake U.S. Army Esports, even if they win. But for sure, if U.S. Army Esports do not win, there's a very real possibility that Spooky Ghost can overtake them in the standings. So would be pretty significant change in seeding if that happens, going down from 3 to either 4 or 5. You do get a very different playoff matchup depending on that. There is some history between these two teams. They have played 3 times in NGS. It's definitely also possible that these teams have played scrims before. I don't recall, like I was on CCS for 2 seasons. I don't recall scrimming U.S. Army Esports, but also there's a possibility that CCS scrimmed U.S. Army Esports outside of the time that I was a member of CCS. And, well, yeah, kind of said the playoff implications right there. And that's kind of what I got for this match. So definitely an interesting thing to talk about. You know, I talked about how CCS, for the entire season, they've been playing with just a 5-man roster. This is the only time that they have... This is the only time that one of their subs has played. Now, U.S. Army Esports is very much the opposite. They have a 9-man roster, and every single member of U.S. Army Esports has played this season. So they've had a lot of rotating in and out. And, you know, of course, you know, there's a part of me that wonders, you know, it's tough to be more consistent when you have that much change and that much just variety. Variety is not the right word, but kind of instability when you have that many people rotating in and out. They've still done very, very well for themselves, of course. We're going to go quickly into the maps because we do have the map, and soon the draft for game number 2 is going to be started. So our map for game number 2 is going to be Dragonshire, and that was picked by U.S. Army Esports. We're already in the draft. You can probably hear it, so let's actually get in there. Let's formally get in there. So we're going to need to see some major changes with how things go for U.S. Army Esports to really come back from that. And I certainly feel, you know, I've talked to Fracture before. I've interviewed him before in other series that I've cast him in. And Fracture is like a pretty motivated guy. He told me, I actually cast the first match that U.S. Army Esports played this season. And he straight up told me, I want to win the division this season. So, you know, I don't think they're out yet. And, you know, if I do have to be honest, in some sense, you know, they're not out of the division if they, you know, lose this match tonight, but CCS right now already had such a statement win over them in game 1 that I think U.S. Army Esports really wants to come back a little bit stronger to just really get ready for the possibility that they may have to play again in the elimination bracket when losing means you're done. Anyway, the Johanna going to be taken away from Valkymer. Does mean the possibility, unless the next ban is on Garrosh, that there is a very real possibility that we do see the Valkymer Garrosh. And he does like this hero. I don't know if I would say it's... I actually don't... I played with Valk quite a bit. Even in times when I wasn't on CCS, I played a lot with him in like Storm League, like pickup games and things like that. I know that he likes Garrosh. I don't know if it's necessarily his favorite tank. But I also know just kind of the way Garrosh bans work out in lower divisions is that Garrosh is like a very feared hero. I don't think he's the best tank in the game, like honestly, like not even close. If I had to say, I think Garrosh is like a B tier tank. But he is a hero who is both a discipline check and a knowledge check. And if you're failing the discipline and knowledge checks, then he does kind of farm. Discipline checks just being your positioning. We're not going to see the Garrosh anyway, but I'll finish the thought. Discipline checks just being your positioning. Are you making it easy for Garrosh to throw you, or are you making it really hard for him to do anything? Knowledge checks kind of based on a lot having to do with draft. Like, are you drafting heroes that Garrosh doesn't have too much trouble with, or are you drafting heroes that Garrosh will have an incredibly difficult time doing anything against? Either way, doesn't matter because we're not going to see the Garrosh, and it's going to be Dr. Evil, or as I like to call him, as he is sometimes affectionately called, Drevel. Drevel is going to be on the fall stand, and Diablo is going to be picked up by Zidrock and Blaze for Sanger. Interesting to see Sanger on Blaze. This is the first time I've seen him not on a ranged hero. And of course, there's always the possibility that that could be switched around. It's also the possibility we might see just, something a little bit different. We might not see a traditional 1 tank, 1 bruiser, 2 DPS, 1 healer comp. We might see something a little bit different, especially because Blaze is a hero that I personally don't love him for the off lane in this matchup. I don't think he's necessarily bad. What he isn't so great at is winning a duel on the top shrine or altar or whatever it is, beacon, whatever the word is specifically for this map. He doesn't duel that well because he usually doesn't do as good single target damage compared to many other bruisers. But he still can be very good just because when it comes down to team fights, he's just one of the best bruisers in the game. And you can also just play in a way so that, you're not necessarily trying to take the top shrine altar. God damn it, I need to find out specifically what it is. And you can kind of just have Blaze double soak and stall things out and make sure the other team doesn't catch the Dragon Knight. And I think that's a perfectly viable way of playing. Anyway, going to be Unicycle picking up the Leoric. Lunara picked up by As. As does have several preferred heroes as well. Definitely his preferred hero is going to be Lunara, Nazeebo. I guess also Vala. I typically was going to say more Lunara and Nazeebo, but he's actually played more Vala than Nazeebo this season, I believe. Anyway, Rhaegar going to be picked up by Ace Boogie. Surefire on the Junkrat. A lot of roles looking very, very different from what I expect on the side of US Army Esports. Don't know if they're just trying to switch it up as a way of just really trying to find something different, but I am honestly a little concerned if this is the kind of the pick, basically just the look for them. Certainly Blaze Diablo in that 1-2 actually looks really, really strong, but, are they on the right players? Not sure. Oh, no, Valk. No, Valk is trying to send us to a game 3 or something. And that is probably one of the most toxic things I have ever said as a caster. I think, given how strongly they played in the last game, I think it's very reasonable that that CCS does win this game, but just the Arthas coming out. There are many heroes. I said I think Garrosh is like a B tier tank. Arthas, I personally think is an F tier tank. I even skip over a D. I don't even have a D tier. It just goes. I don't even have an E tier. That is, just goes from D to F. But either way, those are going to be our drafts. All right, game number 2 is going to take place on Dragonshire. Unicycle Yay this time, representing CCS will be on Leoric. Dr. Evil, or as I like to call him, Drevel, going to be playing the Falstad. Wits End yet again on his trademark Tyrande. I don't even want to talk about this. Valkymer playing as Arthas, and As is going to be on the Lunara. Their opponents, US Army Esports, hopefully going to be fighting back a little bit more strongly in this game. Going to be Zidrock on the Diablo. Blaze going to be played by Sanger. Fracture is going to be playing as Tychus this time. Ace Boogie on the Rhaegar. And it's going to be Surefire playing as Junkrat. So, let's talk more about the Arthas. Now, I think part of Valkymer's thinking, which, and I will say it's not completely insane, is that once Diablo uses Shadow Charge, he can't really get away from Arthas. So he's just kind of stuck in there, and there's the potential for him to just be abused, especially AA Falstad that will eventually go for % damage. The Hunter's Mark from... Oh, Dr. Evil commits the... commits the barrel roll in, doesn't realize what he's getting himself into, and that is going to be 1 kill in favor of US Army Esports. Don't think they get the second onto Uni, but nevertheless, first blood coming out for US Army Esports. So already a little bit of a stronger start. I do think that there is... I do actually think that a stacked Diablo is not unkillable in this game. We've got an AA Falstad who is most likely going % damage, so that's pretty decent damage against a stacked Diablo. We have a Tyrande with armor reduction, and armor reduction incredibly helpful against Diablo. I will add that Lunara can also be very good if you go for Wild Vigor at level 7, and that will give you another hero with strong basic attack damage and then can eventually also get % damage against Diablo. I also already know for a fact that Os is not going for that talent. Anyway, Rhaegar is going to go down. Missed it. Must have happened somewhere around here. But yeah, the answers for a stacked Diablo are there. You know what isn't there? A Falstad. Did you see a bird? I didn't see a bird. It's chicken for dinner tonight. So 2 kills in favor of US Army Esports. Certainly looking like a much better game for them so far, but we're only 2 minutes into it. Is the Arthas pick going to bite them in the ass? For CCS, that is. Anyway, Unicycle Yay here by himself. We've got the Rhaegar rotating of all heroes to try to see if he can help out. But this does mean CCS just going to get a little bit of free push in this bot lane. More than half of this front wall has already been taken down. And okay, you know, if it's not just Rhaegar being the one here who is flanking, it's not too crazy. Like, if it's only Rhaegar who's rotating up top to try to gank the offlaner, that is a little bit strange. But if it's more of a commitment with the Tychus as well, it's not too bad. Leoric, though, a very, very difficult hero to gank because he does have a basic ability Unstoppable that also functions as his mobility. A lot of damage, however, was nevertheless done by the Tychus in that engagement. All right, a little bit of a skirmish down here, bot, but it's only 2 members of US Army Esports. Slow is going to be inflicted by Lunara onto the Junkrat. We've got a bite in from Ace Boogie. I'm always cautious about Rhaegar biting in. I feel like Rhaegar is this super incredibly safe hero, but just something about the Z button often baits Rhaegar players into inting. Luckily, it didn't happen right there. Not roasting anyone here specifically, just talking about Rhaegar players generally. But yeah, the game just really just kind of slowed down here, and I think there are a lot of things about this that, you know, look better for US Army Esports, aside just from the fact that the game is pretty even at the moment. We have a pretty slow draft from both teams. Slower in terms of kind of like slow damage profiles between things like the Junkrat, the Lunara. There still is the Tychus, of course, who is a little bit more of a fast damage dealer. Meanwhile, Zidrock now probably in a little bit of trouble. Concussion Mind going to help him a little bit, and I think it's enough for him to get out. Ace Boogie biting in yet again, but he's got plenty of health, and Fracture is also going to be here looking for the kill onto Valkymer, but I think he gets out alive. Oh, but the channel on the bot shrine does not come in soon enough, and that is going to be first Dragon Knight of the game, picked up by CCS. Going to be Unicycle Yay inside that Dragon Knight, and already just getting some value in here. Kick goes out, but very well done by Fracture, really breaking Uni's ankles right there. Baits out the kick, and then gets behind the wall so that the kick can't succeed, and the Dragon Knight takes even more damage. So I think most of the value of this Dragon Knight is kind of over. He's kind of just using the breath to clear the waves. I think he might like try to move in and try to finish up this top tower, especially he can get like another breath cast, or he's actually just going to walk in. He is Leo, so he can just press E to get out and probably will be okay. Fracture not quite as good with his movement there. Doesn't get behind the gate and will just get kicked away. Alright, so that first Dragon Knight did happen. So did a charge from Blaze, but Unicycle Ye was able to press the E button and go unstoppable before that happened. Not a great position for Ace Boogie, but there isn't enough support here for Valk to make something come of it. I do think if both Wits and Os were there, Ace Boogie would be in a huge amount of trouble, and only Fracture would have been able to help him. So a little bit of a missed opportunity, but of course, Os and Jesus just missing all the things, and that is going to be a kill onto Blaze. So that's a lot of soak that's going to be missing for US Army Esports. Somehow, I think just with all my rambling, I missed the fly by Falstad. It must have been a fly, but Os himself finding himself in a lot of trouble. Can't walk past the APOC, and he does go down as well. Just somehow found himself getting a little too close for comfort, and that will be a kill on the other side. But again, this is still a lot of soak being missed by US Army Esports, as well as some push happening from Dr. Evil and Unicycle. How many kills have I missed so far? Anyway, Sanger having a huge amount of trouble here. And it's kind of one of the tough things about this. I think definitely one of the advantages of the draft for CCS, having the Falstad as a way to put pressure on the enemy offlaner, which is something that US Army Esports can't do really as well. They don't have a global of their own. They don't have something like a Tracer or a Genji. The best bet that they have really is Fracture on the Tychus, which is a much, much slower rotation than a Falstad flying. So, camp going to be picked up by Fracture and Ace Boogie. And, well, going to be time for yet another Dragon Knight Shrine phase. Here's the invade, though. Unicycle Ye coming in. He does have the Entomb, and Fracture and Ace Boogie just going to straight up give that up. That is a 5-man rotation in. Sanger looking for something, but now he finds himself a little bit trapped. Is that charge enough? I think he still has. He does have bunker. He's going to need to use it. He can get out on the other side. So well done. Does at least keep himself alive, even though it does mean that bunker is out. All right, and here we are going to have a little bit of a fight. It is only, this is a 4v3. Can Os get out, or is he going to be yet another kill? We're going to see him, the tire doesn't make it all the way in. I think it might have even gotten rooted. So Os gets out alive yet again. Os just apparently has 9 lives. There's so many times when he's just getting out of here just by the skin of his teeth. Valkyrie now walking in. Zidrock not going to walk. He just charges in because he's Diablo. Going for Wit's End, and they do find the kill. But can they get out? This is Unicycle Ye with the flank. Os jumping over their heads. Ace Boogie so low. Another gust going to knock in Ace Boogie, and that's going to be 2 for 2. But do the rest members of US Army Esports get out? I don't know if either of them do. Certainly Zidrock does not. Trying to see if he can trade out a kill onto Valk, but not enough damage. It's going to instead be 3 for 2 in favor of CCS. US Army Esports, though, for once actually taking some control of the top lane. They've taken so much damage on their top fort. They are going to at least finally do some damage against the top fort against CCS. Or will they? Unicycle Ye is here in time to clear it a bit. Meanwhile, it's Dr. Evil and Valkyrie trying to push on the bottom fort, and instead they're the ones getting some damage on a fort. So much slower, much more even game. It actually feels like US Army Esports are very much in this. Yeah, just go for the Arthas. It's an Arthas. It's very killable. It's an Arthas. If they don't kill the Arthas, oh my god, all right, they killed the Arthas. And I'm going to point out, they got the kill on the Arthas, even though they were very, very late on getting that engagement. They were tunnel visioning on, I think it was the Falstad, someone else, when the Arthas was a much clearer target for a pretty long time, and they still got the kill. Because Arthas doesn't have much he can do in those situations other than hope his team bails him out. I don't know why it says Dragon Knight here with Blaze's face. He's not currently in the Dragon Knight. All right, CCS going to get their camp 15 to 15. It's actually a really even game right now. Slight kill advantage for US Army Esports, but the structure advantage definitely in favor of CCS. And that is going to matter a lot for the bot lane, which is nearly dead. Anyway, Zidrock was wondering who was going to look for a charge onto Uni. Probably could have done quite a bit of damage because Fracture was there, but I don't think there was any chance that they got the kill. Okay, Asp being very, very slippery yet again. Yep. Okay, this time it's a little bit harder to kill Valkymer. Also, double stun from Tyrande, going to prevent Ace Boogie and Fracture from doing much damage. Sanger looking for the channel, but no chance that he gets it with that flight committed from Dr. Evil. Anyway, I do think that they just go on Arthas here. Don't even flip him. Don't even flip him. Very, very smart by Zidrock, realizing that he doesn't have to use the E button just to use his cooldowns. Unicycle Yay looking to make something of this, though. Finds the Entomb. Ace Boogie is super low on health. Uses the Ancestral on himself. Is that enough to get him out of here alive, though? Nice bite there, as well as the totem. Zidrock, though, what is he doing here? Oh, no. I think he thought that Ace Boogie needed help when he didn't. Ace Boogie now once again in trouble, got baited into going back in. There's no Entomb, though, so he still will get out alive just fine. Zidrock, though, I think I was going to say, he does tap, he does get some healing from Ace Boogie. Just people getting out of there just barely. Minigun activated by Fracture. Unfortunately, a little bit of a wasted cooldown there. Just kind of scares us away. Going to be committing the Odin. I don't hate it. Just need some support for it, so Diablo's rotating down, and then they can just kind of get some siege of their own. Now they just kind of need to focus on Valkymer. Basically, because they don't want Valkymer to just walk into them. Arthas is strong when you let him get into your range. And he's really extremely giga-bad if you just don't let him get into your range. Gust is going to be forced out there against Dr. Evil. Kind of had the advantage with 3 members of US Army Esports in that triangle, kind of catching Dr. Evil and Unicycle in rotation. Sanger does capture the top shrine. Will he take the bait and get killed by Dr. Evil on a flight? Not sure if he has flight. Dr. Evil himself in quite a bit of trouble now, but is able to use a barrel roll to get out. And now he is going after Sanger. Sanger, okay, that is a Dragon Knight now found by Fracture. However, kill is going to be onto Junkrat. So it is going to make it a little bit harder to push, but there's still enough health on this Dragon Knight that the Dragon Knight, Tychus being in there, is going to get a little bit of value. I don't know if he finishes this entire fort. Ace Boogie and Zidrock trying to help out. I think Fracture needs to start getting out, otherwise he does risk kind of going down here, and he is going to risk kind of baiting his team into a fight. Going to need Ace Boogie to slow them down with the totem. Os may be looking for something, and this is not looking good for US Army Esports. The Syndragosa, the Gust, Zidrock just barely gets the Ancestral in time, but I don't think it's enough. Question is just how much. Oh no, oh no, not like this, Sanger. What should have just been a 3-for-0 now becomes a 4-for-0 with that charge from Sanger. Real sad there. I feel like they just got a little greedy and overeager to take down one structure that they, in my opinion, they pretty clearly overstayed their welcome. They should have been out there, like, long gone. Like, I think maybe around the time that this was at half health, they should have gotten out of there. They just, with 1 member dead, only 3 members of US Army Esports there, and kind of just the rotations. Definitely one of the things that CCS is doing better than US Army Esports is kind of how both Unicycle and Dr. Evil play the rotations and come in from different angles. So what was looking like a fairly even game is now starting to pull away. CCS, that is. They are really starting to pull away with it. They're more than a full level ahead. They have level 20. At this point, Valk does not have Syndragosa just yet, but he'll have it in 20 seconds. I actually think they just walk with this camp, and they can 5-man, just use Syndragosa on this, and take down the wall at least, if not more. US Army Esports will have to be very, very careful. This is free as well, at least relatively speaking. Concussion mine used... Well, I mean, I think the concussion mine ultimately doesn't matter. I do honestly think it's worth it for Valk to just rip the Syndragosa right here. I don't know if he's going to do it, and at this point I think
the best moment for it has already passed. He's a little bit late on it. So it looks like he's just not going to do it. I do think it's very much a missed opportunity. Okay, we finally have it. I think it's a little bit late, but it might still be good enough. Sanger's really going to have to get back here. I know he's trying to get 20 for his team, but at this point, the fort's not worth it if it ends up being a team wipe. I think I might be wrong, but oh no. They need to just get out of here. Zidrock needs to use the Hellgate to get out, and I don't even know if he does. Okay, he does, but just barely. Zidrock still playing with fire there. Really just needs to heal up. I don't think there is any re-engage here from US Army Esports. I really think they just need to back off. It's a nice charge, but I think it's just incredibly risky. With only 4 members, Diablo not even at full health. That's still being up. The Gust, that is, the Wind Tunnel. Dr. Evil does nearly die, and Unicycle Ye is actually the first one to go down in that fight. Pretty crazy fight. Very, very risky, I feel, from US Army Esports. But actually, they really come out on top. So maybe I don't have a clue what I'm talking about. And this is an Arthas. Arthas is dead. So this will eventually need to be cleared. I don't know. I think there were things all around that definitely think the Syndragosa just could have been ripped earlier to just have the structures disabled while still having the full benefit of all those camps that they took. And it still very much could have been game there for CCS. Ultimately, though, US Army Esports stabilized. It's not looking good for them. I really think their biggest priority needs to be taking down this bot fort. Ooh, this could be a potential kill onto Os, being slowed down by that level 13 spray and pray from Tychus. This is an incredibly strong talent. Of course, it does also compete with Neo Steel Coating, which is also an incredibly strong talent. But you really create a lot of kill opportunities with Tychus when you use the level 13 spray and pray on a target. It's just a point-and-click slow from an incredibly long range for a point-and-click slow. You know, with this, there's reasonable potential for US Army Esports to take game here. There are a lot of things they need to do to make it happen. They definitely need to find at least 1 kill. The Gust is committed defensively. Rhaegar is also the one in there. Ooh, okay. The Entomb is gonna miss. We are gonna see the Riptire committed. Does hit 3, but it is Cannonball at level 20, so no tire resets. Cannonball going to be very good for defending in the bot lane. Fracture, I think, goes down here. Indeed, he does. First kill. That is actually a 4v5. 4v5, and CCS comes out on top. Oh, no. We could be looking at the final fight of the game right here. Could be going either way. Wait a minute. Where is the Ancestral level 20 coming in super clutch for the members of US Army Esports. Just practically full healing the entire team, but CCS still finds the kill onto Ace Boogie. What? They still actually win this, and oh, that's gotta be it. They for sure will kill Surefire. It's gonna be Diablo up, but I don't think... I mean, Valkymer is really, really low there. Wow, I really thought that level 20 Ancestral was going to just turn the fight in favor of US Army Esports, but it wasn't enough. What can Zidrock do here to delay? He can be entombed. There is an entomb. A lot of damage going out on him. He is just dead. Again, no problem killing him when you've got, again, Tyrande, AA Falstad. And that's just going to be game number 2, going in favor of CCS. They will take it 2-0, which also means that they finish this season as the #1 seed in Div C West. So, at the very least, it certainly was a much more competitive game in game number 2. US Army Esports definitely did not go down as easily as they did in game 1, but CCS just still a little too much, and there were just some things there. You know, the team fighting looked pretty good on both sides, but definitely the way that Dr. Evil and Unicycle played those rotations, I think really had a lot to do with their victory ultimately in this game. And yeah, so they secure the #1 seed. Congratulations to them. And again, I'm pretty sure this is the best season that CCS has ever had.
hopefully I'll talk to them soon in a bit in an interview. We'll take a quick look at the talents just to make sure that doesn't go, unlooked at. I really thought the Ancestral 20 was going to turn that fight. It really, they didn't have Fracture, but I'm pretty sure it was still like a 4v4. And this Ancestral got a huge amount of value. It really did heal like the entire team up to full, which is literally what this level 20 does. It is an incredibly powerful level 20, one of the most powerful level 20s in the game. But of course, US Army Esports also competing against some of the most powerful level 20s in the game against things like Wind Tunnel and Buried Alive. So yeah, that is the end of our series. I will throw it to a little bit of a break now and see if we can get someone in an interview. See you soon. All right, what's up, guys? I've got Valkyrie here from CCS. How's it going, Valk?
Doing great, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. Before we get into today's match, I've known you for quite a while, but I also just want to talk about, for people watching, can you tell us a little bit about CCS as a whole? Because CCS is more than just a team. It is a community that you and other people with you, but I just think of you because I know you, that you guys have created within NGS. Tell us about CCS both as a team and as a community.
Sure. So the original team, Can't Counterpick Stupid, was a creation from Wits, who is my brother. And so we built that team. I think Osprey was actually an original member back in Chair League with us. And we really were just that team, and we did some small stuff until about NGS Season 8, I think it was. And the idea to create a sister team to practice against was spawned, and we ended up creating 2 teams that season, and then another team or 2 the season after that, and so forth. And so it kind of built from there. After competing in NGS, Chair League, and Heroes Lounge, we started running a few more events and things like the open houses and stuff like that, where we just do custom games for the community. And then after some disagreements with Heroes Lounge, we started Nexomania, and then shortly after we started Nexomania, I want to say we were in like Nexomania Season 2 or 3 when COVID and lockdown hit. And so the server went from like 400 people to like 1,100 people. And we were doing lots of custom games. It felt like there was custom games happening in the server almost daily during lockdown initially. And Nexomania got to where it had over 100 teams in it. I mean, and NGS I think had like 130 teams in it at that point. And Nexomania uses the fixed schedule, so there was 6 or 7 time slots and teams in multiple time slots. I mean, it was just a madhouse. And we were doing CCS development days, which is like a coaching program, and Wits had set up stuff with some high-level CCL players, and there was just all sorts of stuff going on at that point. We definitely aren't quite as extreme at this point, just because everybody's had to return to work, us included, and so we still run Nexomania. We still have Nexomania Development League and Road to Nexomania, which I probably should have said that before Nexomania. And we still do open houses from time to time, but we just kind of built into more of a playing with everybody all over the place, and things have kind of cooled down over the last couple of years, just because of, like, you know, Blizzard finally pulling back to maintenance mode and so forth.
Yeah, maybe people will come back with this new URL meta, but I do also want to mention, you know, that disagreement with Heroes Lounge. I was there. I was there. In fact,
you were?
I benefited. The disagreement,
you were on the other team.
The disagreement happened because I got a free like forfeit win against you, and then you also had a bot. It was real sad, and I'm sorry, but I was there.
So that was our third run-in with Heroes
Okay,
Lounge.
but that one was the last straw, and I remember it.
It was. So we were the #1 seed in Div 3 that season, and then they slapped us with a forfeit for a match that we showed up 30 minutes ahead of schedule to, and we were pissed. And I just laid into one of the mods, and I just said, you have made the wrong choice, and you have made an enemy. And they were mad because, of course, they gave up some of their day to moderate this thing, and I just said, well, I appreciate the volunteering, but you're doing a bad job. Boom, Nexomania started.
Yeah. And it was a very fraudulent win that I did not deserve at the time. But let's move on past that. I do want to talk about how, you know, as far as I can tell, as someone who is a former member of your team and also just someone who tends to watch things and remember things, as far as I can tell, this is the best season that CCS has ever had. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but even if it is, what is just working so well this season?
So it is one of our very best seasons. The only one that might come close is actually that Heroes Lounge Season 3, and I don't think our record was as good. So, you know, there's 13 teams in C West. We've played now 12 matches, and we have won 11 of those matches. As far as synergy, I think that, like, when you were on the team, I think we were in Div B, and we were kind of struggling in Div B at the time. Last season, we had a pretty good season in C, and Os was on CCS 4 at the time, which is Creepy Crawly Spiders, and we had a damaged player that then got sick right at the beginning of the season, so Uni was helping out, and I do really appreciate Uni stepping up when he really didn't have to. He could have just been like, guys, I'm a sub, I can't spend all these matches, and he did kind of tell us that, but he also showed up for all the matches and helped us play out. So we took, I think it was third last season. The two teams ahead of us, one of them is in Div A this season, the other one is rocking Div B. So even though we are not on paper the strongest team from like an MMR standpoint, we've got a lot of history. Os is back on the team. I think that Dr. Evil, or Drevel as we call him, sometimes we call him Ildrev, that's his rapper name. I think that he and Os have synergized really well on damage players. And if I had to point to one thing in particular that I think this season versus previous seasons, because I think we've had good players throughout the history of CCS, I feel like our comms are better than they've ever been. I mean, and some of them are really stupid. Like if you're ever watching my stream and you hear us scream "no pants," that means that the tank player has used their movement ability to jump in, and we've now caught them with their pants down, so to speak.
Very nice. I like it. I also, you know, I've jumped into your streams a couple times, and I know at some point there will be comments that are comments about Nazeebo's level 13 talent that often comes up. between
Yeah.
certain players on the team.
If there is a major disagreement between Os and Drevel, it is the 13 for Nazebo. And we've had a lot of luck with Nazebo. I think it's kind of funny how people like to say he's not that good of a hero. Like, he comes online at weird points, but Spider's build is stupid damage. He always has great siege, and he becomes the most durable sustain damage in the game, whether you're taking super styling or popsicle, as we call them.
All right. Now, I will say, I was on the team with you in a Div C season where we made it to playoffs with a pretty high seed. I think it was second seed at the time. Ultimately went out in the first round of playoffs. You know, you guys obviously had such a great season now, but I think there have even been times in the past when you've joked about doing well in the regular season and then going out in first round of playoffs. You're just looking so strong right now. You do also have, one team that you didn't get past. What's your plan moving forward?
So the great thing about how this week has ended is our good friends of Roll One Esports slapped down Animaniacs, allowing us to now be first seed, which means Animaniacs is on the opposite side of the bracket. And with how things are lining up, they're going to have to get through teams like perhaps Seeb or Spooky Ghosts or US Army Esports, all very strong teams that are going to likely be that 3, 4, 5 position. So it's not that we're on easy street by any means, but at least we get to be the home team and create a game plan that we can stick to for every game won. And if you look throughout our losses, all of our losses except one game are game 1 losses. And so I think if we can come in with a plan, because we are one of the most West Coast teams in all of Nexus Gaming Series, and so game 1 can often be tough for us. And if we can recoup for game 2, we win the series. But it's tough to fight that uphill battle because while not necessarily design of the league, East Coast teams have inherent advantages over West Coast teams.
I wonder if you could unpack that a little bit. I imagine some of that has to do with, and again, based on my own experience on the team and also kind of seeing how things went tonight, where there are a lot of times when you're literally like arriving home minutes before a match at like 8 p.m. Pacific. I imagine that's part of it.
And so it's easier for an East Coast team to stay up an hour later than it is for a West Coast team to get off of work an hour earlier. Mm-hmm. And to ignore family time or to get kids to bed or whatever. My wife has a medical condition that we had to deal with right before the matches tonight, which delayed us by 10-15 minutes.
I was worried that the match wasn't going to happen because the way Uni worded it when he sent me the message, he said, if we play, it will not be on time. And the if was like, I was concerned the match wasn't even going to happen.
And we had talked about that for a second too, and I asked Mrs. Valk if she wanted me to call off the match, and she said, no, I'm just going to turn on a show and go to bed. Okay. So, but yeah, so the inherent advantages are an East Coast team naturally has the ability to warm up, can always take an energy drink to stay up an hour later, is likely not dealing with spouse aggro or kids to bed, things like that. And so there's nothing NGS could do about it, but it is an inherent advantage to Eastern teams, which is one of the reasons why I'm so outspoken about why Eastern teams need to not be in Western divisions.
I remember some of this. I was there with you when we had some issues with that.
Yeah, we have one team in C West right now that is a particular problem, and they know who they are, and they know that I'm annoyed by it, and I hope they go out in the first round of the playoffs.
Ooh, now that's some spicy stuff. Well, it's been good having you. Congratulations on your incredible season. Wish you best of luck in playoffs. Just what shout-outs do you have before we close this out?
I want to start out by saying thank you to US Army Esports and Frack and his team. frankly, they didn't have to be gracious about the delay this evening. They could have forced us to either forfeit or play with additional subs, and they were very understanding. It wasn't a situation that we planned on, and it happened literally 10-15 minutes before the match, and so it was just a, hey, I need help here. So thank you to FRAC and to US Army Esports.
All right.
Second, of course, thank you to you.
Thank you.
It's late in the season, which casts late in the season are a tough thing, and so to have somebody pick you up for the final regular season game is a big deal, so thank you for that. Thanks to NGS. I do think they put on a great program. Division C is the crown jewel of NGS that everything else revolves around, so it's great to be in C West. And shout out to the team. I think they're playing well. I think each and every person has been super critical as far as building this season to be what it is. I don't think it's on any one of us. I think that we're playing well as a team, we're moving as a unit, and we're talking, and that's upping our game. So great job to everybody. And of course, my traditional sign off and shout out of hi mom.
All right. Congratulations, Valkymer. We'll say good night to you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right, boys and girls. So that's just about it for me tonight. I've been King Andrew, your Nexus Gaming Series caster for tonight. We're glad that it actually happened, and it's just about over. I'm gonna reiterate again that, you know, if you got some time, if it's not time for you to go to sleep yet, check out the Fallout TV show. It is actually sick. It's actually sick. I might watch it right now. We'll see. Either way, have a good night. Switched over to the Blaze. A little bit of a switcheroo in draft. Bankai on the Diablo, Cubico on the Mephisto, and Mischief will be on the Stukov. And our first kill of this series. Not just the first kill, not just the first game. It's the very first kill of the Coastal Finals of NGS Season 16. Now, unlike the last time, I do not feel at all that there is any world in which Gilly Shark and Bingo Knight play this, but maybe they are. They're going to look for it. They don't have a real damage dealer. They're just going to... Oh, do they have clone? They don't even have clone! Oh my god, so this is just straight up going in 3v4, trying to make things happen. Are they really worried that they just lose the game